All right, so let's jump into this first question. Let me make sure I'm going back not too far. Okay. Mikey from who is at Cargo 33 says, why do sports games get away with pay to win by proxy microtransactions without much pushback from their player base, while non-sports games struggle? Example, FIFA Ultimate Team packs versus Battlefront 2 loot boxes. I'm gonna say I think that you might just be missing the feedback or the negative feedback that sports
Yeah.
games get, because 2K gets throttled on a daily basis for microtransactions. Madden takes some beatings for
And
it too.
another thing I'll say is it is pay to win in a certain sense. But it's pay to win or grind to win. But the thing is, the model is after Magic the Gathering,
Hmm.
right? Or Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, whatever. These card games where they were basically loot boxes that you would buy in the store, and depending on how good you got it, how good you got your pack, that's how good it was. But at the lower level, it's pay to win. But eventually, everybody has good cards, and it's really about how you create and play your deck. So it's pay to win at the lower level, but at the upper level, you're expected to all have good cards, and it really comes down to how you play. So that's the idea behind these modes. How they execute it varies from company to company.
Yeah, I think it's the other thing is I think the voices are louder with non-sports games, because I really actually think that not fans of non-sports games and non-sports game communities better understand their power as consumers. Um, the Star Wars fan base said, we ain't liking it, we ain't buying it. Bam.
Hmm.
And that's it. Y'all can sit up and argue about what's right and what's wrong, but us as the consumer have spoken by saying we are not buying it.
And the problem is that Park and Pro Am aren't pay to win, really.
Yeah.
So, and that's a large contingent of your base, and neither is my league pay to win. So
Yeah.
what you have is you have a pay to win mode inside a much larger sphere.
Yeah. And the thing of it is that my team is my team is pay to you know what my team is? My team is I don't know. I won't go as far as to say it's pay to win. It kind of is.
So let me ask you a straight up question.
Yeah.
Is there a situation in my team
Hmm.
where a very, very skilled player is losing to inferior players because of the cards on a regular basis?
I I don't know that that happens as much as two relatively equal players play, and a person with much better cards just destroys a person who they might either be just a little bit better than or not better than at all, but the gap isn't huge. Because I think if there is a situation where I'm 10 times better than you, even if my cards aren't quite as good, I can still probably beat you.
Yeah.
But when it's anywhere close, it
Th-
comes down to the cards.
So now, and then this is my second question. Is the my team economy such that you have to buy cards to get a good deck, or is it such that people who grind are going to get good cards?
I think it's okay. Let me make sure I understand what you're saying. You're asking, is it to the point where if you spend more money, you get better cards?
No, because there's a threshold, right?
Okay.
There's good deck, and then there's an embarrassment of riches where I have all the options in the world.
Uh-huh.
I don't care about that. I care about the baseline level of good deck. Can you get a good deck without paying money?
Yes.
Then I understand what you mean by pay to win.
It's in the middle there. It's right in the middle.
Yeah, yeah. And the issue is this is based off of another model that you see in other games like Hearthstone and what have you. So people aren't going to go at 2K first necessarily because their microtransactions are all over the place. And
Hmm.
Park and Pro Am, which are essentially the same mode, are still bigger than my team.
Hmm.
And so the microtransaction attention for 2K goes towards 1,000 VC haircuts, 250,000 VC megaphones, 60,000 VC skateboards. That's what people talk about first a lot of times, more so than my team.
Yeah, the thing of it is like, okay, it's like Junior's my team is 50 times better than mine. Like he's got
Hmm.
pink diamonds and all. He doesn't have any Galaxy Opals, but he's got pink diamonds. I think he might have 2 or 3 pink diamonds, and then he has a bunch of diamonds. He has barely spent any money or any of my money on it. He's barely spent any of it, right? And he got all of this because he knows how to work the auction house,
Right.
and he uses his my team points, right?
Right.
And that's how he gets packs, and he goes and buys the specific people that he wants, right?
Hmm.
With the my team points. So he very rarely spends anything, and his team is comparable to just about anybody that you'll come across.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's ever really gotten anything big from me giving him. I think the best card he's ever gotten for me giving him money for VC is a diamond Kevin Love. And
Hmm.
that's maybe like the 6th or 7th or maybe 8th best card he's ever had.
Yeah.
So, and I've actually spent money on
Mhm.
it because my whole plan is, okay, I'll do videos and I'll
Right.
share it with everybody, and it's kind of like a cool little just overall investment in all of my
Yeah.
entertainment and the whole nine, right? I've never had a pink diamond.
Hmm. Hmm.
I got like 6 diamond cards now, but I've never had a pink diamond. And one of the diamonds I got today because I got it when they gave a locker code for LeBron today.
So then let me ask you, would the prognosis be don't spend no money?
It's because many my team people never spend money. They
Right.
do everything with my team points, and then they just grind. And if they are going to use anything on VC, what they do is they'll play something else, another mode in the game that is a VC accruing mode, and then they'll just bring that over there. But some people who play my career and my team, their rule is VC goes to my career to build my character. My team points is how I improve my collection in that mode. And that's a good thing. Now, I personally have fallen more in love with my team than my career. I probably played 1 or 2 times in my career in the last 2 months. Every time I pick up 2K now, I'm doing something with a roster,
Hmm.
doing something with a play now online. I might touch a little my league in there, but I'm doing the roster for my league. But everything else is me grinding as my team because I this year I really like it.
Yeah.
This is the first year I've ever really, really liked it. So um it's I don't think that it's pay to win. I think what happens is you get impatient
Right.
and you don't want to do the grind thing. But I do think that 2K has done a good job in putting enough things in there to earn my team points for you
Yeah.
not to have to spend money.
I think both things are true if I say these two statements.
Mhm.
2K is too stingy with VC.
Right.
You do not need VC to have the experience you want. I have three 90s in 2K
Mhm.
that I did not spend any VC on. Now, the other ones I didn't buy the VC, but I got the special edition, right? So
Okay.
that still counts. But just the characters that I had no intention of playing real pro am with, I just wanted to see how the build felt.
Right.
I was able to get them to a 90 in a weekend with nothing.
Yeah.
And these weren't even the ideal builds to do that. We covered it on a old show about how
Yeah.
post character or a sharpshooter, you don't have to spend VC because all you need is one stat and the character is basically finished. Um, and this wasn't even that. This was well-rounded characters, which is the worst kind of character to make. And I still didn't need to spend VC because the game's just not that hard. You can go in there once your characters are 71, they're playing 85% what they're going to play like. And once they become an 83, that's everything else is just icing on the cake in terms of
Mhm.
the character. It's really about the badges more so than the ratings. And the badges you can't buy, you have to grind. So I think 2K is stingy with the VC and they make you not want to spend VC, which is I think they're not helping them.
Yeah.
I think they should have the prices lower so you're eager to spend.
Yeah.
I think their economy makes you stingy across the board.
Yes. I would agree. It makes you penny pinch.
Yes, and they need to loosen up to find that balance where you want to spend VC. You're encouraged to buy VC. You're encouraged to have a lot of things.
Because you start thinking of, man, I got 50,000 VC. You know all the things I could buy with that, as
Right.
opposed to I got 50,000 VC. I can only get two things.
Correct. And then you spend that 50,000 VC and you feel like the game is giving you a lot of stuff for free and you don't feel so bad about I'm going to throw down $5, $10 because I just want this other thing right now. That's what gets other people in other games is you spend a little, you get something that makes you satisfied and then you spend more. 2K is very for me it's very unsatisfying to buy VC. So I don't buy VC,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah, because I don't have a problem with buying VC as conceptually, right? Because, but what I have a problem with is if I don't value what I get in return. You
Mhm.
know, because I don't mind paying for my entertainment. I think a lot of people are caught up in the whole thing with video games used to cost $59.99. You got everything you wanted to get in the game, blah blah blah. Games are not what they used to be. They're different. They're more advanced. There's far more layers now than there ever were. And when you buy a game at this point, especially a game like 2K, which, like you've mentioned before, is really an MMO, it's you already have an understanding this is not a single purchase.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? I'm literally paying for a service now. That's what this 2K is, a service more than it is a single game,
Correct.
you know. And when you're paying for a service, it is an ongoing thing.
And honestly, I think more important than how much you pay. I know this is like people have different levels of money, right? Obviously.
Hmm.
But the thing is, more important than how much money the game asks you to pay for what is what those hours feel like. Is it
Hmm.
enjoyable to play the game? Because there's games that I've played that I've put a lot of hours into, but the game didn't get fun until after I put in 100 hours.
Yeah,
Nobody likes that feeling. Here's 100 hours of grindy crap. Now the real game begins. And there's other games where I've spent 45 hours and every single minute of that game was pure joy,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
say Spider-Man or Mass Effect or Skyrim. Every minute I spend in that game is fantastic. 2K is not as bad as some games. Like
No,
say Destiny, 25 junk hours before it gets even a little bit fun.
yeah.
Like
I think I honestly, I think Anthem is that way too,
oh, for sure.
because
Anthem
there's
for
a
sure.
there's a lot of people who are saying that the more they've played it, that they have really started to enjoy it.
Right.
But it killed me in the first 2 hours, and I
Yeah.
said, I'm gonna rip my lips off if I have to continue to play this.
And
And I was like,
it's really 30 hours of that.
yeah,
It's
uh,
30 hours of nothing's gonna die. And
yeah,
then you get to, masterwork gear. Now it feels like a normal video game again.
yeah,
Like, and so I think it's really how do the hours feel? I think companies put too much emphasis on how many hours there are. And I
hmm,
think players put too much emphasis on how much they spend versus how
hmm,
much time they spend. Because the bottom line is if you spend 500 or more hours in a video game and you only spend $60, there is no other form of entertainment, maybe outside of buying a basketball and going to the park,
yeah,
where you can get that much entertainment for that little money.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Yep. All right, let's move on to the next question. And this one comes from Devin95, Bull Saints 95. And he says, what are your favorite all-time boxing fights? Um, I am a boxing fanatic and have been for as long as I can remember. I'm telling my age here. The first fight I ever saw live was in 1981, Marvin Hagler against John the Beast Mugabe. And it was literally a fantastic fight. So in a sense, it spoiled me because I thought they were all going to be like that. And that wasn't the case. But that fight was fantastic in so many ways. It had drama, it had a humongous big time champion who seemed unbeatable, who the announcers made seem unbeatable, fighting a guy who was 38-0 with 38 knockouts, I think at the time. John Mugabe was just destroying everybody. And so it was just a fantastic fight. Hagler wins the fight. That one, Sugar Ray Leonard, Thomas Hearns, the first fight was one of the greatest fights ever. That's actually also 1981, I believe. Um, Gotti Ward 1 and 2, um, Pacquiao Marquez 3, um, Tommy Hearns, Marvin Hagler, three of the best rounds of boxing you'll ever see. I mean, if you want to see literally like somebody playing Fight Night Champion 3 or Fight Night Round 3 in real life, that's about the closest thing as you're gonna get to it because it's an absolute slugfest for 3 rounds. Um, Moving a little closer to now today, the last really great fight I saw was Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury. It was a great fight. It was a really, really good fight, especially by heavyweight standards where you don't see a bunch of great fights all the time. That was a fantastic fight. Those are the ones that come to mind. Obviously, I know there's something I'm forgetting. Some fight that was great that I'm neglecting to Barrera Morales one great fight. Um, those are the ones that pop into my mind initially.
Yeah, for me it's Sugar Ray and Hagler. Um, I'm a little younger than Mazique, and so those fights that happened in '81 and stuff like that, I saw them all on tape.
Yeah.
'Cause my dad had like tapes of all the great fights and stuff like that, and I would watch those tapes over and over again. And so Hagler Hearns was another big one, but yeah, Sugar Ray versus Hearns. I'm so sorry, Sugar Ray versus Hagler was definitely one way, way, way up there. Um, Definitely Roy Jones Jr. versus Ruiz.
Hmm.
That one I liked a lot. Like I really, really enjoyed that fight tremendously. Um, because I didn't know if Roy Jones would be able to go up in weight and take that fight, and I felt like he was just so smart. I just loved everything about the fight. Because he didn't get a chance to fight a ton of great opponents. By what people say in boxing, like a lot of Roy Jones fights was the Roy Jones highlight reel. You know what I mean? And that was a situation where I really got a chance to see him um you know just really go to town in the figure in
Yeah,
fight.
do something extraordinary. Even though John Ruiz wasn't a great fighter, it wasn't necessarily the opponent. It was what he was what Roy was doing.
Correct. um and then I don't know, I want to throw in a Hopkins fight, to be honest with you. Because I like, out of all of the defensive fighters, he's my favorite because I loved watching him break guys down, but I just don't know which one.
Hopkins Trinidad was a really good fight.
Yeah, he's got a bunch of them. He's got a bunch.
Hopkins De La Hoya was a absolute um
That's why it's hard to
masterpiece.
pick. That's
Yeah.
why it's hard. So
And
so for me, the last
yeah.
fight would be pick a good Hopkins fight, and it that's fine.
Yeah.
Because I kind of enjoy him equally because I just love the way he works, and even though Mayweather is like the quote unquote greatest defensive fighter of all time, my favorite to watch and the guy that to me that's like the instruction manual for what makes a great defensive fighter is Hopkins, and he shows it in his best fights.
Yeah, there's some people definitely before Floyd that say that's a joke that Floyd's the best defensive. There's people who say that, Willie Pep, some other people, they're like, "Pff, please look, but it's always going to be that way. But Floyd's and Pernell Whitaker to me is the greatest defensive fighter. I mean,
Hmm.
Pernell just like, I mean, the usage of changing levels of avoiding shots with simple things like crouches and it like doing that. I mean, defensively, I think he was the best. But yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, those guys are all in the kind of in a similar category. Okay, let's see what we got next. We got this one comes from Breeze. Uh, his handle is who the f is Breeze. Well, you are somebody, Breeze. I know that. I know that. He says, do you think that Apex Legends will have a new map released, and should they charge for it? If so,
I don't think they're gonna go new map. I mean, maybe, but I don't think so. Not especially not this soon because the game is a very very high skill
hmm
gap game.
hmm
There's a lot of different classes in the game, and it's a team based game. And I think the game is going to let I think they're going to let people figure out the game. I think they have so big of a player base that they're in the collecting data phase
Hmm.
of what the casuals like, what the quote unquote pro players like, balance changes they need to make. I think they're going to be focused on that. They're going to be focused on new heroes. They're going to be focused on new skins way before they change the map. Because the thing about Apex Legends is mobility in that game is one of the highest skill gap elements.
Hmm.
And until the player base masters mobility, they don't need a new map. Quite
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't play Apex Legends that often, but I don't. It feels a little bit early for that. A new map.
Yeah.
I think you, like you said, you gotta let people master a map to the point where they're like, okay, I'm kind of tired of this. Like, I'm ready to play on another map. And I
And
don't
you know
think,
what they want.
yeah, yeah, you don't even know what they're looking for in a map yet because people are legit still learning the game.
Hmm.
So I think it's a little bit early for that.
And
So
like we said on the show, I don't think that Apex I don't think they expected Apex to turn into the biggest game in gaming.
right now, yeah, it is.
And if you looked at their marketing of Anthem, if
Mhm.
they thought Apex was going to be as big as it was,
They
they would
wouldn't
not have released it the day
at the
before
same
Anthem
time.
came
Yeah,
out. Like
there's no
that
way.
was, it was so close to Anthem's release date, and it is a team-based shooter game. Even though it's a battle royale versus a loot shooter, it's still you going in with a couple of other people to accomplish a goal. And they like as many problems as Anthem has.
Yeah,
It don't help having a game to create your own Fortnite to beat it up.
yeah, yeah.
That's not ideal. So I think so, and to point it out is to say they're taking it all in before
Hmm.
they make monster changes like that. So I
Yeah,
wouldn't expect anything soon.
yeah, because they really have no reason to move fast right now.
Hmm.
They're in a great position. So all right, the next question also comes from Breeze, and he says, "What is the best soundtrack in sports gaming history?"
Ooh,
Like I know the one for me.
the one for you. Okay, so for me, I'm gonna have to say Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
And that's a sports game.
Oh, see, it says sports game.
Yeah,
I
sports
thought you
gaming
just
is.
said game.
Yeah,
Sports gaming history.
yeah.
Oh man, I don't like none of them soundtracks.
Actually, I
Oh,
was
I know. Is F Zero a sports game?
I think so.
The
Yeah.
F Zero, yeah, F
Yeah.
Zero for sure. F Zero's
I
fire.
have no idea what the soundtrack sound like on F-Zero.
Oh, you need to find out, man.
Oh my god.
They got that slick jazz for you. You need to get on there,
Oh Lord help us. No,
man.
I don't think it would do it. I don't think it would do it for me. But for me, it is definitely Fight Night Round 3.
Mhm.
Fight Night Round 3 had some stuff like,
Okay, I'll say this. Fight Night Round 3 had the hype soundtrack.
oh, it
Like,
was awesome.
I just don't like hip hop like that. I ain't gonna vote for nothing with all that hip hop on there. Like, get me out. I'm in virtual tennis for 'em. Yeah, elevator music, man. I can't take all that hip hop.
Oh my god, it's the soundtrack is a banger. It is a banger. It's got so many swears on there, man. Just mm. Like, I mean, we used to be like ramming with it. Like it was just dope. It was like Fight Night Round 3 had the dopest soundtrack. Like,
Yeah, I would say Fight
actually
Night Round 3 is probably the hypest.
actually, there's somebody in the chat. Actually, is my best friend in the world, a friend I've known the longest in my life. Literally, I've known him since second grade. We've been friends since second grade. He's in the chat right now, and he just put yes in the chat, and the reason being is because we spent so many hours fighting each other on
Uh-huh.
fight night, and we knew them songs like we had them joints on a CD in the car. Like, we knew them songs, like, and they usually the songs that are in games are kind of garbage. Like, but there was several songs on there that, like, we would have, if we were making a CD, we would have put a couple of them songs on the CD.
Yeah. You know
So
what? I have to say, a lot of times, in the past, like in the past, Madden has had a soundtrack where I always felt like, man, the EA people, they got some DJs in there, man. Like they would just have those hype songs. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, I thought Fight Night was the best of that.
but like I say, Madden does a really good job of hitting several genres.
Yeah.
They don't go all hip hop ever. Like, so I think for that they do get some love for that. But yeah, man, no, that Fight Night Round 3 was that
I
deal.
mean, definitely F-Zero. Let's do that.
F-Zero, no, I'm
You
sorry.
ain't, you don't even know what this
It just
music is
don't
like.
even. I looked at the graphics when I just pulled it up real quick, and
Classic.
I
You
can't
had to look.
imagine.
You didn't know F-Zero off the top of your head.
Yes, you I did not. I
Oh,
did not know.
so you use a Genesis kid
Yeah, I actually was. I didn't play Super
playing
Nintendo.
that Holyfield boxing.
Yeah, you know what? That game sucked, but I played it all the time.
Streets of Rage.
Oh, the Streets. I never liked Streets of Rage. I always liked Double Dragon more, and I thought it was like a bad ripoff of Double Dragon.
Uh-huh.
I never liked. You know, they're supposed to be redoing Streets of Rage, so
Yeah, they're redoing that. I was all about Road Rash and Shinobi 3. That was
yeah.
it.
I like. You know what I used to like a game. Do you remember River City Ransom?
I never played River City Ransom.
Oh, that game. It was literally a horrible game because it was about it was about gang violence. It was about gang violence. But it was so dope. It was so dope. It was off the chain. But all right, let's move on to the next question. The next question comes from who is it? Where did it go? Which way did he go? All right. Oh, he must have knew we were going to talk about Fight Night. So this one's also from who the F is Breeze. And Breeze says, if a new Fight Night game is in the works, what things would you want it to have that the previous versions did not? Um, I would like for it to have a sim mode, not make the entire game sim, because if the entire game sim is going to sell 11 copies, and
Hmm.
I know that, but I would like a pro mode that is Ultra Sim, and that is where the esport is built out of it. Because I don't think that a boxing game can really survive and do what it really needs to do unless it has an esports component. And I think it needs that esports component needs to be built from the beginning, from the ground up. And I think that that happens in a sim mode. Now there could be an esport that comes from the arcade mode too. I'm sure that'll have a audience as long as it's balanced. Is all it really is the requirement. Doesn't have to be realistic. Just let it be balanced. So I think that's there. But I think boxing fans would appreciate a mode where the margin for error was similar to what it is in an actual boxing match. You can boxing and MMA, combat sports period, but boxing and MMA, they're the only sports in the world where you can dominate an entire contest and lose it in a second. It's the only sports like that. Like you can be up by 35 points. And if you're up by 35 points in basketball, I don't care if a dude jumps and dunks from the 3-point line. You're still only now they're down 33. I don't care how awesome the dunk was. It just if you're dominating, you're dominating. In combat sports, there is that element that separates it from all other sports. If you get clocked the right way by the right person, it's done. And I think I would, and there's never really been a boxing game or a mixed martial arts game that has really captured that dynamic. And I think one of the reasons that you shy away from it is because people are playing a video game more so than they're playing the sport. And I understand that because it is a video game. But I would love to see a mode that offers that experience, that opportunity for a one hitter quitter. Um, I also think that you need to eliminate the usage of fighter licenses, period. I think you need to do your homework to find out what it is that you can do from a creative player suite or creative fighter suite. Put that out there, um, and have the you essentially just have the community crowdsource your roster. Find out where the legalities begin and end with that. And honestly, man, and the solid gameplay. That's what I would love to see.
Yeah, I mean, I like what you're saying about, you know, the modes and all of that stuff. For me, it's really about styles making fights.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
don't, I think the one thing that boxing games have been really bad about, and the UFC game still needs work in this area, is the footwork.
y'all absolutely.
If the thing about competition, this is across the board. Competition is about spacing, right?
Hmm.
And the way you react to the space that is created and your positioning usually determines the winner and the loser in most competitions, right? So
Yep.
the easy thing is the reason Steph Curry is so great and probably the second greatest point guard of all time is
You've been
because
listening to Andre Iguodala too long.
no, I've thought that for a while. I've said that so many times on the show. But even though I think a serious case can be made for Isaiah Thomas,
Yeah.
to have that conversation. But the reason people make that argument is because Steph individually changes the spacing opportunities of the defense.
Changes the whole game.
NBA defense looks one way because you're guarding these positions, which is around the central idea that getting under the basket is good for you and bad for me. Steph Curry says getting across half court is good for me and bad for you. This changes the spacing. The thing about boxing as a sport is there's two, just at a base level, you can say there's three different kinds of boxers. Boxers who want to change space all the time,
Hmm.
boxers who excel in close space, and boxers who excel in farther away space. Already, that's three different fighters: the inside power guy, the rangy jab guy, and the mobile guy.
Hmm.
And no boxing game has given us that experience. I don't care how arcadey it is in the sense of realism, because realism is relative to the boxing era, talent, and division you're talking about, and how inclusive of any of that you want to be. You can make a realistic boxing game that's only based off of what happens in heavyweights, and it would be realistic in sim. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying in the virtual boxing world, I want the virtual version of what has been created in the sports world. Because one of the things we always talk about when it comes to sim is it takes two sim people to create a sim experience. The gaming company can't make it sim. You need two people who balance each other out. Because guess what? If I create a boxing game where if both people were as skilled relatively as Hopkins and Tony, then they would have a Hopkins and Tony type fight, then that's going to happen. But if one of those people is as skilled as whoever boxer you don't like, right? Let's say not even a professional boxer, then Bernard Hopkins can turn into Mike Tyson because of that person's level of skill and athleticism and knowledge.
Hmm.
So it's not always going to be apparent that the game is sim at the outset. And this happens all the time with fighting games. The first couple of weeks of a fighting game are usually no indication of what it's going to look like at Evo because the people have to learn how to play.
Hmm.
And in order for a boxing game to get there to the Mount Olympus of being sim, it first has to have the opportunities for style and space manipulation, space domination, space control. That has to happen first. After that happens, we'll see a sim emerge from that environment.
I totally agree. I 100% agree with that. It is not possible on any boxing game that I've ever seen to kind of craft a style.
Right.
And it's always everybody's essentially doing the same thing.
Hmm.
It just comes down to who does it better.
Which is why it always distills down to people spamming for a knockout.
Well, okay. Fight Night Champion, what it came down to is who can time their counters the best.
Yeah, yeah. Time encounters, stamina bar manipulation,
Th-
and
that's that's that's
combos.
where it came down to. Because essentially when you watch two super high level Fight Night Champion players play, it's a lot of bam, bam, and
Yeah.
everybody's literally fighting the same. And if you try to incorporate another style, I don't care how good you might be at it, and I don't even care if you're controlling a character who's supposed to be good at the style you're trying to use, it's not gonna work
Hmm.
because it's this the meta for the game is this style. And what I think you're saying is that the meta should be dictated by the style matchup and
Yes.
the execution of that style matchup.
And in order to have that, you need to give the players the power. to control space.
Yes, it's about. I've always I explain this to someone who is supposed to be making a boxing game, so we'll see what happens. But it's about the speed in which you can backpedal, the speed in which you can move laterally. That's what
Mhm.
it's about. Until somebody gets to a point where they're able to um, convey a fighter's ability to move backwards and sideways with any level of speed, you're going to have a hard time having anything besides a phone booth type of fight
Mhm.
ultimately.
Mhm.
That's what it's going to be. So yeah, I definitely, yeah, I think you spot on with that one. All right. Our next question comes from Paul. She's Apples 23. And he says, is the 3-point shooting from I'm gonna tell y'all right now, I don't know if we're gonna get to these 5 questions because I didn't realize we still had questions here. So he says, is the 3-point shooting from Danny Green a concern for the Raptors heading into the playoffs? So I don't know if you noticed Danny Green's shooting is taking a little bit of a dip. um, I don't know what the reason exactly is, to be totally honest. I don't get a chance to see the Raptors that much. I see them sometimes, but um, yeah, I mean, he struggled a little bit, but I don't know. He's been hot lately, though. So I don't. Well, I mean, he had a tough game Tuesday, but he's kind of been hot over the last week. So I don't know if I'm not sure I know if I know where Paul's going with that. I mean, he's shooting 43% for the year, and he's been hot lately. So I'm not sure. I don't know what he was basing that on.
Yeah, I'm just gonna answer the question with no.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's not for any of those reasons. Because look, if your shooters get into slumps, that can cost you. But the thing is, Danny Green is a 3 and D guy. Their defensive schemes can go up to excellent. I think their concern is further integrating Jeremy Lin and Marc Gasol.
Yeah.
Jeremy Lin is a productive NBA player, replacing Fred Van Fleet.
Yeah.
And if they can get Jeremy fully acclimated into their system and get their rotations right and fully benefit off of Gasol, then they're in a really good situation. So I think that's their concern. Danny Green shooting, the thing of it is he's not a Clay Thompson where you need him to score, you know, at least 18 points per playoff game in order to be getting value off of him.
No, you just
Okay.
need him to space the floor.
Yeah, they're not going to leave Danny Green open. And if they leave Danny Green open and he's cold, he's probably going to get hot. So, you
Yeah.
know, that's the and also it's not like Danny Green can only shoot 3 pointers too. He's not like a Luke Cornett where the only thing he's out there for is hitting threes. Yeah, he's a 3 and D guy,
See,
but
you just mentioned the Knicks for no reason.
I didn't mention the Knicks. I just mentioned
A
one
player for the
dimensional
Knicks.
a one dimensional player.
You mentioned the player for the Knicks,
One,
and
yeah.
you did that. And see, it's important that I call you out when you do these things, because you're not going to allow me to have a Bulls conversation
We
without some
talked
sort of.
we
Yeah.
talked for 75 minutes about the Chicago Bulls today.
We absolutely did not. We absolutely did not. That is an absolute fallacy, and I'm offended that you said it. So let.
Anyway, uh, Danny Green he brings a lot to the game. He's a very intelligent player. If he misses a couple of shots, it's not a big deal. Danny Green can go cold and they can still win. It's really he needs to get to Draymond territory where people are leaving him open, and as Brian said, he's ruining the spacing. I don't see that happening.
No.
They have shooting coming from a lot of places, and Toronto's 3-point shooting isn't the only thing you have to worry about with that team. So yeah, I just don't think that's going to be a major factor. I think Danny Green missing shots in crucial moments will hurt them, of course.
I'm honestly, I'm not sure where Paul was coming from with this question, because I'm looking and I'm like, okay, so he asked this question 2 days ago, right?
Mhm.
And I think he might have looked at one game and kind of got a little weird worried about it, because on Tuesday, Danny Green shot 4 for 13 from three, which
Mhm.
is not a great night,
Not
but
great.
it's not like, oh my god. But if you look at him, like, so far this month across 3 games, he's shooting 43% from 3-point range.
Right.
So
I mean,
I,
and that's his average. So
yeah, I don't think there's a problem. And last month in February, he made 49% of his threes.
and it also goes back to what I said. I think playoff teams, the way they perform in the first 5 to 6 weeks after the All-Star break, isn't the best sample size for anything happening in the NBA. Generally, it's the last few weeks before the season ends that you see how teams are really going into it. Because if they're going to rest people, they're going to rest them now. If they're going to take teams lightly, they're going to take them lightly now. Like, there's a lot of odd results that happen in this post All-Star malaise until teams get it together and they're kind of ready for the playoffs, especially since some of these seedings are either locked up or spiritually locked up, meaning you don't care if you go first or second in the Eastern Conference. It
Yeah,
don't. You know what I'm saying?
it don't
Like,
matter.
no, Milwaukee's more concerned about resting Giannis's knee than they are about getting the number one seed. So they're gonna drop a game to a Phoenix or something like that. Like, so nothing. I wouldn't get too alarmed about anything that happens. He could go 1 for 20 in the next two games. I don't think Toronto's gonna give a shit unless that
Yeah.
happens over the last 3 weeks of the season.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna cut off our questions right there from the ones that are already stored up, because as I look at them, they're fairly evergreen. So I know that we can attack them next week. But I'll do one more question, and this one is actually in the chat from Big Heck Money. I appreciate you coming through, bro. I don't think I can remember seeing your name in the comments. So if you are new, we really do appreciate you bopping in. If you're not new, I still appreciate you anyway. Uh, fist air internet fist bump. So he says, do you think that the Celtics are screwed with the curse of Kyrie's divaness, or are they playing possum for the playoffs? I don't think they're playing no possum.
No.
I think they are legit in shambles. Because the
Mm,
same way that I think that LeBron is a horrible loser, I think Kyrie is a similar style loser, and it's even more so that way now because he got used to winning. And I think that if Kyrie wasn't their star, they would be able to handle this hiccup in the road that they're in right now. Look, and now blowing out the Warriors helps, definitely helps. But I do think that overall, this little hiccup is a little bit more difficult because of what you mentioned, the divaness of Kyrie. I think Kyrie is a bit of a he's turned into that quite a bit. I mean, I think 2K putting him on the cover, him hitting clutch shots, and people saying this and that, got him outside his body. I really do. I really think I do. I think that. So I think he's not the ideal superstar to be going through this kind of thing with, but neither is LeBron, which is why he's barely putting a hand up on people driving straight up his face.
See, now I can't stand that this is the position that you put me in to
Is that
defend
what I did?
Kyrie, because I'm usually the person who is talking about that people overrate him a bit. Um, I think this is a bit taking Kyrie's attitude and putting too much importance on it.
Mm,
Because first and foremost, the reports out of the Celtics locker room is that he actually has a good relationship with a lot of the players and the younger players. And on the court, when they lose, it's not actually because of Kyrie. It's not like Kyrie's throwing the ball out of the bounds. And even the story about Kyrie dominating the basketball, it's not actually true. Yes, Kyrie will have some plays, and particularly at the end of games, where he'll pat the rock. But a lot of times throughout long, long stretches of the Celtics games, he's moving the ball a lot for a guy who's supposed to have the game that he's supposed to have. It's not like he's taking people out of their game with the way he's playing. And he's playing really, he's, in a lot of ways, it's the best he's ever played.
mhm.
And at the end of games, I think he's the best clutch player in the game. And he has won them many games this year with great play at the end of games.
I think he is definitely a top 2 or 3 clutch scorer at the
Good
end of the game.
enough.
Yeah.
Good enough. And he's made some great passes at the end of games too.
Yeah,
Uh,
I just offensively, I think he's a
yeah.
top 2 or 3.
Well, he actually beat Oklahoma City with a steal. And it was risky. It was a very risky play because if he didn't get his hand on that ball, that was a 3-point shot. But
Yeah.
they still won the game with a steal. It was a gamble. My thing is Boston, they just don't play well with Kyrie. That's it. Like sometimes it's just about basketball. Like they literally look different with Kyrie off the court when he doesn't play games. And I think part of the reason it's been such a topic of discussion is because it's really hard to figure out. It's one thing when a guy plays bad. It's one thing when a guy's efficient. It's one thing when a guy makes people is like making people around him worse. It's down to the point that sometimes guys are just missing open shots when they're playing with Kyrie,
Yeah. Yeah,
right? Like
it's because, he really doesn't fit the system.
I think that's what it is. And so I don't think it's his divaness. I think this is one of the things that he gets blamed for, even though I don't like his attitude. So this is not me saying I like his attitude. It's just about what is the role of his attitude. He's been on a team for 2 years. Now he didn't just get there this year. The biggest variable with them is not Kyrie Irving. People talk about like Kyrie Irving didn't play last year. Kyrie Irving was there most of last year. He got hurt at the end of last year, right?
Yeah.
So all of their success last year, most of it happened with Kyrie Irving, right?
Yeah.
Now, I do, like I said, I do think they play better when he's in a bit lesser of a role as a scorer. And their 18 game win streak was his individual worst stretch of the season in a lot of ways. And as he got better, they actually started to drop more games, which goes to the thing of they just don't fit him that great.
They don't.
And that's just what it comes down to. Now, here's the thing though, the variable is Gordon Hayward. Gordon Hayward, there's two variables actually. One, there's other players I think funking up the locker room because they're not as popular as Kyrie Irving. They're not getting the blame. So I think guys like Terry Rozier pout. I
Jalen
think
Brown.
I think Jalen Brown might be pouting. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I think
Mhm.
Baines being injured for a time hurt the team. They act like they losing their strong man just didn't mean anything to them. That
Yeah,
hurt.
yeah, you can't lose the Viking.
Correct. Al Horford playing well. I mean, playing poorly throughout the first half of the season. He's playing better now. So, and you see, and that's a nightmare matchup for the Sixers because he is the direct counter to Joel Embiid. Apparently, I mean, Joel Embiid looks terrible playing
I
against
don't
him.
understand. It's funny how somebody who seemingly wouldn't match up well with him
Al
gives him
Horford
problems.
is an outstanding defender when he's on his game, and when he's super on his game, he's also hitting a lot of shots. And that, as a big man, what he's doing is he's making you defend him in a place where you don't want to defend him. And he's super strong and super smart.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
But
so
I look at
this is a guy who
Embiid's.
was the best player on 55, almost 60 win Hawks teams with no serious stars on it.
And he was the best player on the team last year. Honestly, when
And the team before that with Isaiah Thomas. He
yeah,
was the MVP of that team, what most people consider, despite the fact that Isaiah Thomas was putting up 30.
yeah, I think he
So,
did the most.
right. So the thing is, Al Horford's picked up his game. Gordon Hayward is starting to show signs. I have thought it to be absurd that people are judging Gordon Hayward. And my biggest criticism of the Celtics is that they overreacted to the growth period because it's not like they were terrible. They're just not in their stride yet. And I feel like, yeah, Kyrie's attitude in the media doesn't help because that stuff gets back to the locker room. But there
Mhm.
are other people in there who are pouting too much as well.
Yeah,
And
but I always say, and I tell you this all the time, and this is just how I look at it, that public pouting has and it really depends on who you have in your locker room, but that public pouting, especially when you're a star, has a more significant effect on people because they feel like you're putting them on Front Street, and it feels like you're acting like you're
I
better.
agree with you, but I don't think Kyrie has thrown his teammates under the bus.
Oh, not even nearly as bad as LeBron has this year, honestly.
Correct. If he was worse, it would be different. Kyrie's pouting to the media about what they're saying to him. He's not constantly whining about his teammates. He said some stuff that you could look at in some ways, and he's been a little manipulative. And I don't love it. Like I said, I'm not a huge Kyrie Irving fan, but
Yeah, no.
I don't think this is a situation where Kyrie is some kind of locker room cancer. Every report that's been coming out about Kyrie Irving in the locker room is actually that he's been great, and on the court he's been great. I just don't think that this team is built well around him.
It's not. I mean, it's crazy because he's having his most efficient season
Yeah,
and
best playmaking season,
easy.
and
In
he's playing more
every
defense too.
yeah, he is, and but it's just not translating the way he or most people thought if you would have told people that Kyrie Irving was going to have his most efficient scoring and playmaking season and playing better defense than he normally has played, and that the Celtics were going to be disappointing, everybody would have told you it was crazy.
But and even with that, like to call the Celtics, this is why I say it's overreacting. They've won 40 games. The best team in the league has won 49 games. When you have a player coming back from a career threatening, totally gruesome injury, and most of your cast is young, and you lose your backup center, that 9 games is a fair, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, especially when the rest of the league got better. It's not like this happened in a vacuum. Milwaukee's way better. Toronto's way better. Indiana's way better. And they lost Oladipo now, but he was there for a time. And that was also a factor. And the Sixers are way better. So
I think what
I think it's an
people,
overreaction.
yeah, I think the majority of this talk happened when they lost 4 in a row. And then it wasn't just that they lost 4 in a row. There was a bad loss in there to the Bulls.
Yeah, but even in that 4 in a row, some of those were close games.
Yeah, well,
Immediately after the All Star break,
it was only
overreaction.
it was only it was they lost by the Bucks to 1, and they were on the road. You lose by the Bucks on the road to by 1, it's not a bad loss. But when you follow that up by losing by 10 to the Bulls, and Zach LaVine goes nuts, and this was right at the beginning of the Bulls starting to play better.
Hmm.
So and then you get blown out the next game by the Raptors,
Hmm.
and then you lose to the Blazers after that. So now people are worried. Now people are worried. And one of those wins, one of those losses, I think it was to the Rockets. I think it was they lost by 11, but they gave up like a 20-point lead en route to it.
Yeah.
So there was some reason for some panic there, or at least some concern.
Yeah,
And
and but that's my point though. If you say, hey, we got to get it together, we got to tighten some things up, that's fine. We can't let this go on. We got to get back on it. That's fine. But acting like the sky is falling when
see,
you've won 40 games and you've got a 60 something percent win record and and again, it's not like your team is on equal playing field to these other teams because you're talking about incorporating a major piece who is definitely not going to be 100% until at least 16 months after his injury.
mhm.
And he's a major piece. And the irony of all of this is that if Gordon Hayward is healthy, he is the best complementary piece to Kyrie Irving on that team.
Very good, because he's the kind of the do it all type of a guy who's
Consistent shooter,
got
cut
good enough
the
offense.
lane,
Yeah, yeah,
create his own shot, go to the basket, play a little defense. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
so they had to pay a penalty to work to get an all-star back.
yeah.
And they acted like the penalty didn't have to be paid and crying about it. I think the crying about it is the issue. I think the losses, there's very few losses in the Boston Celtics season where I go, oh, that's seriously alarming. Like, they don't work super great with Kyrie versus how they look off the court, although they probably are about the same level of team. It's just not adding up to something that's better than both, right? Like the
Mhm.
Celtics with Kyrie have about the record that they have. The Celtics without Kyrie have about the record that they have. The general thought is the Celtics with Kyrie are better in the playoffs than the Celtics without
And
Kyrie.
that's really what it's going to come down to.
Yeah.
You know.
So, and Kevin Durant said they'll be fine when the playoffs hit. I think that's possible because once you start scouting those same matchups all the time, you're not taking all these road trips. It's not this different stories all the time, trade talk drama all the time. The playoffs usually dominate the story as well as your activity. And I think Boston is the kind of team that that favors them when and also the more Gordon Hayward plays, the better he gets. And that favors them on the court because he Gordon Hayward is the second best player on their team if he's healthy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think well, Al's having a tough stretch here and there, and of course Jason Hayward is still not Jason Hayward.
Jason Tatum.
Jason Tatum.
Jason Tatum may become better than Gordon Hayward, but
Yeah.
there is no evidence that he's better than prime Gordon Hayward. Like
Well,
there's
yeah,
none. There's
I would agree with that, but we don't 100% know
no
that.
no. That's why I say if. I say
Yeah,
if.
Yeah,
And the reason I bring up Gordon Hayward is because if you look at his game, particularly the fact that he's a Brad Stevens guy, literally, right, from
yes, from
college.
Butler. Yeah,
But the thing about it is that Gordon Hayward, the intelligence of his knowing where to be on the court,
yeah, and
Boston would heavily benefit from that.
yeah,
And
playing off the ball. And which is key if you're Kyrie Irving's teammate.
well, and honestly, it's also making plays too, because Kyrie Irving's a good catch and shoot player. He's not like other ball dominant guards that aren't good in catch and shoot
Yeah, I
situations.
mean, he played with LeBron, so he's obviously going to be excelling at
Right.
catching the suit.
He's good at both, and I don't feel like Kyrie has had an unwillingness to pass. I would criticize that there are times when Kyrie has gone tunnel vision on scoring when he should still pass it to the 3-point line. But I could also criticize that those guys don't shoot well enough, and he makes a lot of those shots. We talked about him.
He makes tough shots, man.
That's the issue, and I think his teammates, while they are correct in that they play better without him, they would do better to sacrifice and say, bump that for now. Let me be the best that I can be in this system and go for the highest opportunity. Because if they do that, Boston can beat virtually anybody. I don't think they're the favorite to beat anybody, but they can beat
Yeah,
anybody.
I can't imagine them beating Milwaukee 4 times. But then again, I'm going to be honest with you. If everything clicks for Milwaukee, I don't know that anybody can beat them 4 times.
Milwaukee looks exceptional. I'm getting concerned about Giannis's knee.
Yeah, yeah. Just over. I think they would. I think. I think they would be smart to rest him
Yes.
down the stretch. I mean, I know you haven't locked it completely up from Toronto, but I think they would be smart to rest him. Like, if for me, he's resting after every 2 games for the rest of the way.
Yeah, I think what I would like to see from them is to shut him down the last 5 games of the season and give him a nice long
Is
recovery.
that or one of the two things? One of
Yeah,
the two things.
yeah.
You know,
Keep him in rhythm for now so you don't get too out of your stuff. But once you get to that last 2 weeks, shut him down. Give him 2 weeks before the season ends. You get the playoff break, and then you can bring him back in slowly, get him into shape. Whoever you get in the first round, as long as you don't face Brooklyn, you're in no danger whatsoever. So
I think they still beat Brooklyn either.
well, the problem with Brooklyn is Brooklyn can get you into a long series because first of all, Brooklyn is like a little better than people think. They
No, they
have
defend. They defend, and that's the biggest thing. And
and
they're
they shoot
athletic.
and they shoot
Yeah,
and they just
Joe, yeah,
and the thing is Brooklyn was solid and then they got Karis LeVert back and
yeah,
Karis LeVert is already looking pretty good.
yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Don't sleep on Brooklyn because it's not as cupcake of a matchup as the other teams below Boston. Like if they get Detroit, they could beat Detroit without Giannis.
They could beat Detroit without Giannis. I think they beat Detroit. I think they beat Brooklyn without Giannis too.
I don't know about that.
I think they beat Brooklyn without
Brooklyn
Giannis.
shoots. So the problem is Brooklyn is the puncher's chance kind of team. But the thing is, they're not only that. Like you said, they defend. I know you don't like D'Angelo Russell.
Nah, I actually, D'Angelo Russell that's more about just his personality, his game. D'Angelo Russell is the truth, man. I mean,
Yeah,
he's very similar to Kyrie, just a little bigger, just taller and left-handed.
he's a better passer than Kyrie though. Like
Yeah, he's a better passer, but
he's a
I'm
more
talking
natural
about in
point
terms of
guard.
creating his shot and being a guy who creates his shot without elite level athleticism, but
Yeah,
still is always able to create enough space to make shots and knock down tough shots and knock down
he's like a
clutch shots.
weird combination offensively of like James Harden and Drew Holiday on the offensive end. And lighter version because he's younger and he hasn't reached that level of James yet on the offensive end. Drew, he's probably a better offensive player than Drew.
He is a better offensive player than Drew.
But the thing is,
Not by too much, but he is better.
yeah, and I only brought that up because you said he wasn't a needle mover to you. But watching a lot of Brooklyn games, I do think he is a needle mover. I think, but he's a young player, so I think he's become that more.
But I think, did I say, I don't think I said that recently.
Yeah, I mean, this show is only a few episodes.
Yeah, but we've been talking longer than this show.
No, it was about 3 episodes ago that you said he wasn't a needle mover. But if that's not how you feel now, my thing is that was probably more true of him even just a few weeks ago than post All-Star game, him getting acknowledged and the team winning and being consistent and getting Karis LeVert and Dinwiddie back. Remember, Dinwiddie was out for a little bit. So,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like, Brooklyn is not a team you want to be unhealthy against, whereas Miami, Detroit, Charlotte, that's fine. They can, if Giannis is super rusty in the first two games back against Charlotte, no worries. If he's super rusty in the first two games against Brooklyn, they could find themselves in a 7-game series, which is not what they want to do.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm quite there with Brooklyn. I definitely like the beginnings of what's happening.
For sure, for
I
sure.
don't think I'm quite there with where I think that they can push Milwaukee the way
Well,
Milwaukee
I'm
plays.
saying
But
specifically pushing Milwaukee with a limping Giannis.
yeah,
That's what I'm
no,
saying.
no. I honestly, I don't think that they can beat Milwaukee without Giannis.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. I would say that's a roughly even matchup. In fact, I think if you put Giannis on Brooklyn, they're just as good as Milwaukee is.
Maybe I don't know, especially not with Pau Gasol and Miritich. Yeah, no, and
Meredith,
Bledsoe,
Meredith
and
has got
Bledsoe,
us right. I like all of those guys, but I also like Joe Ingles. I mean, not Joe Ingles.
Joe
Joe
Harris,
Harris.
and
Uh,
Jared Allen. I really like.
Jared Allen's awesome.
Yeah.
And so is Dinwiddie and Levert,
Oh,
man.
Dinwiddie's the truth. Dinwiddie, I really like Dinwiddie, but
Nice.
but
Like,
I think
like, nice.
I really like Dinwiddie, especially in the role that he plays. I
Yeah,
really like it. He's so smart, such a smart basketball
for
player.
sure.
I hate that the Bulls let him go just really for like a bag of golf balls. But I mean, because we're looking for a point guard right now.
Yeah. Oh, you would love Dinwiddie right now.
Yeah. So there, there that is. But yeah, man,
And here's the thing: when you shoot as well as Brooklyn shoots,
mhm.
you can win games you don't deserve to win. That's my
Oh
entire point.
yeah, the shooting brings you back in the
It's not
games.
to
Yeah.
say that Brooklyn is better than Milwaukee. They're not,
It's just
obviously.
they can be dangerous because of the shooting for sure.
And if Brooklyn is at full strength, particularly bringing in the fact that they're getting stronger as the season goes on, getting Levert back, and the growth of D'Angelo Russell now, they're an entirely different team than they were in the first 5 weeks of the season. So, you know, that could be particularly when after Levert went down. Milwaukee would like to avoid that matchup, but outside of that matchup, I think they have a lot of margin of error in terms of bringing back Giannis, which is my point. It's just they can afford to rest Giannis.
Yeah, I think they definitely can afford to rest him too. So yeah, that's what we got today, guys. Probably went just a couple minutes longer than we wanted. And we do still have some questions, like I said, from Ask Us Bro. We'll spill that into next week. I'm interested in hearing what you guys think though about the live show. So if you can hit us up on Twitter. You can do it at me bro show, or you can do it at myself, which is at UniqueMazique, or at Nelson Blake 2 on Twitter. Let us know what you think about the live show. If you think that that's cooler or whatever. I'm not making any promises. I don't want to speak for Nelson or anything like that, or even the producer of the show, my awesome wife. I don't want to necessarily do that, but I do want to hear what you guys think about
I'm
it.
surprised you are so willing to go to a format where Portia can't save you in the edit. That's amazing.
What do
I
you
applaud that.
save me in the edit? You know what? You know how many times she has saved you in the edit, and I said, and I was like, murder him, and she's like, no, don't murder Nelson. He's touched, and so in certain parts where, like, if we let it stay, people would know you're out of your mind.
I'm not
So
the one who would take Ray Allen over Kobe Bryant.
and that's part of the reason why you're nuts. So we're trying to hide these things from you, but now you're letting it all out. So you can't blame me when people start sending you pamphlets for interventions. So it's on you. But I appreciate everybody watching as always. This was actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun, man. This was a lot of fun.
And yeah,
Definitely
didn't
shout outs to
didn't
everybody in the chat.
definitely, man. You guys, for the most part, we had the same around about the same number for the whole time,
Yep.
which I think is really dope. Z3 Gaming, appreciate you, Big Heck Money, and everybody. Gimon Tag, I saw you come in. I saw your question, man. I'm gonna just go ahead and throw the answer out. My answer for the average viewership for 2K League is about 15,000 this year, is what I think. Somewhere 15,000, 20,000. I think it was pretty much similar to what it was last year. So that's all I got for you guys today. I appreciate you watching as always. God bless and peace.